She is going to talk about North Korea and South Korea. She is Korean. And Jinny Choi, I will let her introduce herself and also her background. So, Jinny.
Thank you very much. I am incredibly flattered and to be asked to speak in front of you today. I think May wanted me to speak today because she and I share same conviction that, as she said, the United States of America may not be the perfect country, but it is very best country for the any opportunities and freedom it stands for. America offers the same opportunities to anyone and everyone who wishes to come here and work hard to achieve their American dream. I myself was born and raised in South Korea. I came to the United States as an international student with legal student visa, and now I am legal permanent resident of the United States, living American dream. That's right. Not like those intruders, invaders, or infiltrators that are coming from the south border as we speak today. And I honestly despise anybody who's calling them illegal immigrants. They are not immigrants. They are just intruders and invaders. They are not same as me and May up here. Despite I'm a foreigner, English is a second language of mine. I'm a woman, I'm a minority. Democrat will make you believe that I couldn't achieve anything in the United States with all these racism. That's not true. I was able to get into prestigious colleges, and I was able to get into prestigious companies with nothing but my own hard work. I graduated Smith College with economics degree, and I worked at Morgan Stanley Investment Banking. I worked at General Electric. I worked at UBS Investment Banking. I worked for Bridgewater Associates, which is the largest hedge fund to this date. I worked at TPG, private equity fund, which is one of the largest private equity fund out there. And now I'm a chief operating officer of finance advisory firm in the United States. I'm also a co-founder of an asset management business in South Korea. If I can do that, anyone can do that. And that is what America offers, and that is what American dream is all about. And that's why I'm going to speak up and as much as I can so the next generation, next person, anybody like me, anybody who wishes to work hard, legally coming to the United States, can achieve that dream and have the same opportunities and privileges that were offered to me. In my 25 years of working in the United States, I never had an experience. I didn't get the position because of my race or because of my gender. At the same time, no opportunity was given to me just because of my race or my gender. And that's how it should be, based on merit. And that's the American dream. And no other country offers that. So up until about last year, I was sitting in your spot, not up here. I didn't get involved. I thought, why get involved? I'm just not going to speak up. After all, United States, I am not a US citizen. I'm still a South Korean citizen. Despite the fact I pay taxes here, not South Korea, I lived here longer than South Korea. Just like all of you are here because of America means something to you, because it's your country. Same for me. South Korea means something to me. That's why I'm still a South Korean citizen, but I have a permanent resident card. In perfect word, I'd love to be dual citizen, but South Korea does not approve that. So that's why I am still South Korean citizen, but I live here and pay taxes here. The reason I start speaking up is because I start seeing things that are so wrong and so unjust so many times. First, it was discriminating against Asian students when getting into colleges. We kind of all knew they were discriminating against Asian students, but we didn't have a proof. But because of the lawsuit, colleges did not have a choice but to admit that they are discriminating against Asian students when admitting to the college. What? In America, they are openly discriminating against a certain group of people because of their race. Yet, nothing happened. No corrections, no public apologies. They continue to discriminate. Then, it was against white men. At first, it was a subtle rejections by HR department in hiring for corporations. Now, a lot of big corporations, a lot of big banks, and some of the banks that I used to work at, now they have a target quota of how many of the white men they're going to replace with other minorities. They're officially, openly discriminating against a certain group of people in America. Yet, nothing happens. No public apologies, no corrections. They are continuing to discriminate. Then, it was against the women. First, they were violating women's protected areas, such as the locker rooms and bathrooms. Then, now, it's discriminating against young female athletes in women's sports, for God's sake. And the President of the United States, instead of correcting this issue and making them apologize and lose all their jobs, he's on their side, discriminating against female athletes. And now, all the campuses are filled with chanting of anti-Semitic remarks. They are calling for genocide of the Jews, Israelis. Didn't we just somebody tried to do that about 70 years ago? And we all agreed that was a horrendous thing? And now they're calling for rivers to the seas. Not only that, now they are calling for death to America. And more I hear people saying, we need to make America to become a socialistic country. And that's when I said, no more.
No.
That's right. I say enough is enough. It is now time that all of us, you, me, everyone here, we need to stand up and fight for what's right and just. And how do we do that? I think we start doing that by voting the right candidates and send them to United States Congress. And I think May is the perfect one you should vote for to send to the United States Congress in November. So now let's talk about socialism. Right? When I first heard people talking about socialism, I thought, oh, come on. They're gonna go home, they're gonna Google it to see what socialism is really about, and they'll just drop it and feel embarrassed and talked about it. Man, was I wrong. Contrary to my thoughts, the socialistic movements grew stronger, and bigger, and here we are. As all of you know, socialism has been tried and failed spectacularly so many times. Soviet Union, China, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, Laos, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Albania, Angola, Belarus, Congo, go on and go on and on. And even all of these countries gave up the pursuit of socialism and moved over to capitalism. And in 2024, the United States wants to try socialism again. If that's not the definition of insanity, I don't know what that is. If those are countries that listed wasn't good enough for you, we have a perfect twins study. And some of you may know, in medical field, twins study is guarded as the highest quality study because you can hold all of the other variables constant except just one variable and observe what happens to that twin over the long period of time. That's South Korea and North Korea. That's my country. Korea has over 5,000 of years of history together. We always have been one country, one people. We have our own language, We have same history, same culture, same everything. If I send my sample to one of those DNA companies, they will tell me I'm 100% Korean. That's how homogeneous country we are. After all 5,000 years, one day, July 27th, 1953, a very homogeneous Korean country was divided into two. South Korea went with the United States and Western European country, and we chose capitalistic country. North decided to go with the Soviet Union and China and chose socialistic country. That's it. That is the only difference between North and South Korea, ideology. You know, socialism always has been and still is marketed this utopia, right? Everybody will share things equally. Nobody poor, nobody rich. Everybody will be taken care of. Everybody will get free housing, free education, free healthcare. You will have jobs, and we'll all share together. Sounds freaking nice, doesn't it? The catch, and always the biggest problem, is the very first step of socialism. In order to start this utopia, government has to take all of your property assets, belongings, wealth, houses, and everything you own. And a lot of young people, especially young people nowadays, think, oh, I don't have anything to give, nothing to lose. Great, I'm gonna get some, and you're gonna lose. They couldn't be any more wrong, could they? Likely, all of those young people walk up with a roof over their head, clothes on their back, and likely they have a lot of different electronics, clothes, and so forth. And most importantly, they have some knowledges and skills. And that does not belong to you either. Even your mind does not belong to you. You think you have nothing? You only have a body? Guess what? They're gonna put you to physical labor. And now, welcome to socialistic country, college kids. And that's what socialism is about. And who is ever going to give up all of their assets, all of their belongings so freely to the government? No one. That's where the violence starts. Government's now going to forcefully take all of your belongings and assets from you, and everybody will fight back. So what do? They need to put fear in people. That's where the public killing comes in. There's nothing better than shooting people and hanging people in public and make you watch it. And that will make you give up fighting. That's still the first step of the socialism. And because of the need for the violence, and because of the need of the controlling everyone in that country, inevitably going to be a last person standing who is willing to do the most cruel thing, willing to kill the most, willing to do the most violent things on their own people, will hold all that power. That's why in history will tell you, every socialistic tribe inevitably had a dictators. Some of these dictators you know very well. Adolf Hitler killed 17 million people. Joseph Stalin killed 23 million people. Mao Zedong of China is estimated to kill 49 to 78 million people. Benito Mussolini, 500,000 people. Pol Pot, 2 million people. Kim Il-sung of North Korea is estimated to kill 1.6 million. His son, Kim Jong-il, and his grandson, Kim Jong-un, are still killing people in North Korea as we speak. See, the biggest problem of socialism is this violence. Socialism is estimated to kill about 100 million people. Some historians say actually it's close to 200 million people. Let's put that into perspective. World War I killed about 40 million people, and that is the highest estimation. World War II had about 85 million. Socialism killed 100 to 200 million people. And some of you might say, well, they're not all socialistic country. There's some kind of communism, there's Nazism, fascism, totalitarianism, Marxism, Leninism. Let me tell you something. This is all different shades of one thing, socialism. For example, a lot of people love to correct me. Well, North Korea is not a socialistic country, Jinny. They are a totalitarian country. Let me read it to you what totalitarian is. Totalitarian is a form of government and political system that prohibits all opposition parties, outlaws individual and group opposition to the state, and its claims exercise extremely high, if not complete, degree of control and regulation over public and private life. Do you really think North Korea started there? As a totalitarian country, they said, oh, yep, sign me up, I'm going there. No, they all chose socialism. It was right after the Korean War, which was very cruel for our country. And before the war, we were colonized by Japan for many years. So it was a really tough many years we went through. So a lot of people chose socialism. They really thought they were doing something noble and just, and it will all be shared equally, and they will leave this utopia. That's what they thought. It's a perfect bait and switch of dangling socialism and going to different directions. And that's one of the reasons no country ever lived in socialistic country despite so many tries. Nobody actually gets there. And sadly, and everybody thinks that North Korean people are stuck in that country, and they are. I could have been born just 1 hour north of where I was born. I was born in Seoul, Korea. An hour is driving from Seoul is where the DMZ of the North Korea is. If I was born just 1 hour above, I would have been a North Korean. Nothing different from me. So let's talk about this North Korea and South Korea perfect twin study. Let's see how their countries differ in 70 years after 5,000 years of same thing. First, GDP. I believe everybody know what GDP is, right? GDP per capita from 1950 to 2010. This is according to World Bank and BBC. As you can see, up to about 1974, we're tomato, about similar, and then we diverged and we never looked back. So I'm sure all of you guys can imagine North Korea, South Korea, we have a lot more GDP than they are. Guess how many times? 500 times? How about we are about now, as of 2022, GDP per capita of South Korea is about 35,000, and North Korea is about $800. 43 times. While South Korea grew our economy by 70 times, North Korea basically stayed flat in 70 years. South Korea is the 13th largest economy at this time, and North Korea is about 10%. What about exports? I'm sure you guys can imagine that South Korea exports far more than North, right? Obviously. 100 times, 200 times, 500 times? How about 2,243 times more? South Korea exports about 684 billion, and North Korea exports about 304 million. Only difference, ideology. Socialism is what gets you. What do you think the biggest exports of South Korea is? Samsung, yeah, phones, cars, a lot of electronics. It's actually circuit boards, chips. We export about 63 billion of circuit boards, chips, to the United States and every other countries. What do you think North Korea exports?
Ammunition.
Ammunition is good? But yes, it's coal. They are still exporting coal. And of course, they are selling some of their military equipment and so forth to Russia and Iran. I'm sure they are, but it's against UN sanction. Electricity. I thought about a lot of different statistics to show you today. A picture is 1,000 words, right? This picture was taken from space by NASA. As you can see, South Korea lights up like a Christmas tree. Whereas North Korea, they actually had to put a line where North Korea is because it's so dark. There is no electricity. Pyongyang is their capital. That's where Kim Jong-un lives. That's why you see a little bit of a light there. North Korea electricity generation is less than 5% of South Korea. Life expectancy. Obviously, it is hard to get data out of North Korea because they don't really announce or share any of their data, as you can imagine. So I brought 3 different statistics. This one is according to World Bank and BBC. As you can see, our life expectancy between South Korea and North Korea is about 13 years. And remember, we've been separated only 70 years. And we live about 13 years longer than they are. Do you see the big dip of the North Korea? That was major famine that they went through in North Korea, that's why. And this is according to South Korea's Department of Statistics, about 12 years. North Koreans live 12 years shorter than South Koreans. National Institute of Health estimates North Korea, by men, about shorter by 8.1 years, and for women, 11.2 years. Again, only one difference, ideology, socialism. Physical difference in people. This one is teenagers, a 17-year-old. So this side of the graph is a South Korean, 1965 all the way to 2010. 17-year-old boys are about 5'7", and girls are about 5'2". North Koreans, we measured all the defectors out of North Korea. We measured them anyone from 19 to 29. So they're full adult size, not teenagers. Still, men are about 5'4", and women are 5'9". They're much, much shorter than South Koreans. Again, 70 years, less than 3 generations. This one is the most painful statistic here. It's about children under the age of 5 years old. North Korean babies, about 15% are underweight in North Korea. Close to 30%, they're not developing properly because of malnutrition. It's 1 in 3 children, 1 in 3 child are malnourished in North Korea. Whereas South Korea, we have opposite issue. 6.7% of South Korean kids have an overweight issue. They do not have that issue. Also, according to National Institute of Health, North Koreans are shorter by 4 to 5 inches than South Koreans, and they weigh about 15 to 20 pounds less than average South Koreans. That's a lot of difference between just the same people, same DNA of the people. And remember I showed you the famine? North Korea official stance is that they had about 225 to 235,000 people killed in famine. We say that's a bullshit. We say it's as high as 3.5 million people who were dead. And prior to that famine, their population was only 22 million. That is more than 10%, close to 20%. 1 in 10, 1 in 5 of their whole population just died because of famine. Rows. Let's talk about the length of the rows. So North Korea, geographically, they are about 1.2 times bigger than South Korea. So they are bigger than we are. In South Korea, we have about close to about 100,000 kilometers, which is about 61,000 miles. Out of that, 92% is paved, and 8% of the roads are unpaved. Can you guess what percent of the road that they have compared to South Korea? Same 100? 90%? 80%? How about 25%? That's right. And because, guess what? 97% are unpaved. Only 3% is a paved road in North Korea. Let's talk about cars. How many cars do we have versus North Korea? We need some baseline. How about United States? Per 1,000 people, United States have about 900 cars. You guys have a lot of cars here. That includes all the children. They're sitting over here. You have 900 people have a car per 1,000 population. What about South Korea? We have about 526. About half the population have a car, including children. No wonder we have so many traffic issues. Do you want to guess how much North Korea has per 1,000? 50? How about 1? South Korea has about 25 million cars. North Korea has about 30,000 cars. Mobile phones. Yeah, we make a lot of mobile phones. Some of you guys have Samsung phones, LG phones, and all of those phones. We have a lot of phones. We have about 58.9 million phones, and our population is about 50 million. So we have more than one per person, including children. So we have a different issue. How about North Korea? How many millions of the North Koreans do you think have? 3.2 million. However, you kind of shocking too. You're like, wow, they have phones? Then why don't they just Google it? They'll find out all the information. Because their phone does not connect to internet. It only connects to intranet that is governed by North Korea. So they can't go to Google, they can't go to YouTube, no Facebook, none of those. Ask your college kids if they still want the socialism. Information. North Korea completely blocks and controls information to their people. So as a South Korean, do you think I can write a note, write a letter, postcard to North Korea? No, there's no postal service outside of North Korea. So what do we South Koreans do? We send leaflets in balloons. And when I say that, a lot of people think, well, do you write a note, like in a little note, like a balloon and send it? No, that's not what we do. These are the leaflets. These are the balloons. Do you see this as a people? Do you see how big these balloons are? We can hold a lot of things under these balloons. And the second picture is what's included in those balloons. And as you can see, there's a dollar bill. And you guys are all wondering, why the heck are you sending a dollar bill to North Korea? Guess what? Dollar bill is most craved currency in North Korea. They have 3 currencies. They have Korean won, which is their one. They also use Chinese yuan. They don't like it as much as US dollar. US $1 can get them about 9 pounds of corn or 2 pounds of rice in their market. So if you can imagine getting that, it's a big lottery winning for them. That's why we put a dollar there. We also put underwears, some clothing, some medicine for that they can use, some of their stationery, pens, and so forth, and most also importantly, radios. Because their radio is a fixed stations, so they can control the stations to find South Korean channels. So we send them radios, hoping that they will hear what we are sending them in all FMs and all AMs, hoping to reach them. As we talked about, there's no internet, only intranet. No books outside of North Korea. Can you imagine? They probably have a library. When you go to library, there is nothing but just the books that are created by North Korean government. That's the only thing they can read. TV, same thing. Only propaganda programs created by North Korea. Education, they can only study what North Korean government tells you. And there's no religion. If you are caught trying to practice religion, they will kill you. Still, there are a few people who believes in Christian in North. And some of them defected to South Korea, and we asked, how did you keep their religion going? If you ever get caught with the Bible, they will kill you. And do you know what they said? They memorized. The elders memorized as much as possible and gave it to the younger ones so they can all memorize each sections. And that's how they kept the religion. If that's not the power of God, I don't know what is. And guess what? There are North Korean embassies around the world. And you will think, what about those diplomats? They've been to outside of North Korea. They could go back to North Korea and tell them what is truly happening. Do you know why they don't? Because they're not allowed to leave North Korea until they leave one child behind. So until you have 2 children, you cannot leave the country because they will hold one child back as a hostage. Not far, yes, I agree. Let's talk about military. This is a one statistic, they're ahead of us, many times. North Korea is the 52nd largest country by population, but they consider to have world's 4th largest army. South Korea doesn't. North Korean military is spend about 25% of GDP. Obviously, we have much higher GDP, but we don't spend 25% of our GDP into military. North Korean military service, it's required 10 years for men and 3 years for women. South Korea, female does not serve, only men serve, and they only serve 18 months. Yeah, we don't serve as much. As you can see, they overwhelm us in a lot of different statistics. But we have much better quality, much higher quality military than they do because of our technologies and advances. And obviously, because we have the United States, who is in our ground helping us, protecting us. And we'll never forget how a lot of you guys, especially a lot of Minnesotans, came to Korea and fought for us and died for us. And I'm very grateful for your service. We will never forget that. So, there is one other picture I'm going to show you. This picture went viral. This picture was taken when Trump was visiting North Korea to have a meeting. And it was a random picture was taken. US military person, North Korean military person, and South Korean military person, all standing together. And here it is. Now, this guy is a US military. This is a South Korean military person. And the middle guy, who's about 5, 6, 7 inches shorter, he is a North Korean military. My money is that these 2 guys will be able to beat his ass. What do you think? So hopefully, these statistics I showed you clearly what happens when you choose socialism. Only 70 years apart, guys. That was it. And this is how much 2 countries differentiated. And last, here's another reason I wanted to talk to you today. Because I find crazy similarities between North Korea and woke ideology in the United States. I know, I sound crazy, right? Really crazy. But let's see how crazy I am. I'm going to read some of what North Korea does, and I want you to substitute North Korea with woke ideology and see if you find the similarities as I do. There we go. North Korea party decides what is right, what is wrong. And you are not allowed to ask questions or push back. If you push back or question them, they will punish you and everyone around you. Isn't that cancel culture here? North Korean party dictates what to think, what word or vocabulary to say, what to believe. And they constantly come up with new concepts, new vocabularies, and enforce them. And if you don't keep up with these, they will be flagged as a traitors, and they will punish you. Isn't that virtue signaling that is happening? North Korean party tells their people to denounce their public enemies in public forum, to prove that you are loyal and you agree with their ideology. Isn't that what social media is used for nowadays? North Korean party claims that they are the ones who are morally right, morally superior. The enemies are those who sold their souls to the riches for capitalism. And the one in the power, the white men, they're evil. They just took that out of the North Korea exactly. North Korean party claims that they are the party for the working class, the poor, the sick ones. They love everyone and everyone equally. They strive for perfect and complete equality. DEI? North Korean party controls information distribution, and any other information outside of the channels are called fake news. They actually used the fake news before America did. North Korean party classifies people based on their heritage. Whether your ancestors were pro-Japan, pro-US, pro-Korea, or any of those. The North Korean party punishes people for their ancestors' sins, and they say those people need to pay back for their ancestors' sins. Reparation? North Korean party brainwashing people, brainwashing starts very early at elementary school. The regime appoints their most staunch believers into the teaching positions to make sure all kids are educated properly from their view or indoctrinated in regime's thinking. That is happening in the United States in the education system. North Korean party teaches children how they should be loyal to the party and their ideology and not their parents. They are taught to watch their parents' behaviors, what they say inside of their home, and they're trained to call out their parents when they're outside of party guidelines. And they get rewarded when they report their parents to disloyal behaviors to North Korean party. College systems, United States. North Korea party does not allow any religion and teaches that believing in religion is dangerous and evil. Clear side of the traitors, that's what they teach. That's what's happening here too, isn't it? These are so similar, aren't they? And that's why it scares me the most. That we all need to stand up and fight, and we need to stop this before it gets even bigger and further. Not only they are trying to make America into a socialistic country, but they are already using North Korea's methodology in America now. In conclusion, I'd like to remind you of some of the following we talked about today. There should never be any discussion whether socialism is the way to go. Number two, North Koreans were just like all of us, wanting something good. But remember how all socialism starts. Instead of going to the utopia, they kill thousands and millions of people instead. Number three, the moment you start being okay with one discrimination, you open doors to all discriminations. And not speaking up and not getting involved is very much an action itself. We all need to speak up and fight together. And number five, how do we do that? We vote right in November. And the first thing we need to do is vote May to the Congress. That's it for me. I will take some some few questions, if the time permits? If you guys have any question, I'll answer. Yes, sir.
What do we know about the literacy of North Koreans? Can they actually read these Bibles that they would like to have?
They can read their North Korean languages and so forth. I mean, we have same languages, but because of the 70 years apart, our language is kind of diverse quite a bit. Because of a lot of words we use are in English, such as computer, laptops, and so forth. South Koreans adopted English as a self. North Korean does not. So North Korea came up with all different languages and vocabularies for those words, so we're kind of far apart. But because if they don't pass certain written exams and so forth, they get beat up. And they will be sent to the camps, labor camps. So yes, they do have a literacy level. So therefore, if we can get the information to them, they will be able to open up their eyes. But not even 5% of the population, and we don't think they know what's going on outside of North Korea. Yes, sir.
Yeah, in the Philippines, which has a U.S. educational system, and in Japan, children in the very beginning speak their native tongue, but then when I think it's 6 or 8 years old, English is in the school systems as well, and so they learn English starting from age 6 or 8. I'm wondering, is that true in South Korea as well, or no?
No, not like the Philippines. The Philippines adopted English as almost their national language. There's kind of dual system of the language, but English is actually one of the most spoken language in the Philippines. South Korea isn't. Still, South Korean is the most spoken language, but a lot of students, we start learning about how to write and speak and so forth since our elementary school or junior high school. So a lot of people know how to speak English, but not that great, because pronunciation is pretty hard. Yes, sir?
I've heard that South Korea has a longer school day and more school days per year than, for example, Minnesota. Do you know what those numbers are?
I don't know the exact numbers, but I can tell you we do not have 3 months off. That I can tell you. Our summer vacation was about 3 weeks. However, a lot of Korean students, not only they go to school, but we go all after schools. Education is #1 priority for a lot of Koreans. And I know it's kind of sad to say, but a lot of kids are in some sort of school or learning system. And if you're a 6th grade, you are not coming home until about 9 o'clock because you're going to school and after schools. And if you are in high school, one of the saying is, if they're sleeping 6 hours a day, they're not going to college. 4 hours is the only thing they're allowed, 4 hours of sleep. And after that, every other waking hours, they're studying. America don't need to go that far, but need to go a little bit further than where we are right now.
What about these labor camps? How do people advance there? What ages, both sexes?
Yeah, labor camps can be any ages, because if your parents are going to labor camp, your children are going together. And if you become pregnant somehow in the labor camp by rape or any other reason, the children are born in labor camps. And you're not expected to make out alive of labor camps. They are given just barely enough food to live so they can work.
And how do they land there?
And actually, anything. So they can say they could believe in religion. They spoke against North Korean party. And every North Korea house have to have North Korean dictators' pictures in their houses. Every house has 3 pictures. Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and Kim Jong-un. And if they are required, when you enter the house, you bow at those pictures. And when you go to work, you have to bow to that pictures. If your house is on fire, you better get those pictures out of the house before your children. And every newspapers always have their pictures, and you treat their pictures like they are living, existing person. You cannot allow to fold them. You're not allowed to put things on top of it. And if you do, you might end up in labor camp. So any other reason they want to put it on.
So who are the labor camp police when you stop them?
Yeah, they have Gestapos in their system. They are the basically North Korean armies or police, you can think of it as, and their job is to catch these disloyal people and send them. They do a trial, which is basically judge tell you where you're going to, and you're 3 generation. If you're caught speaking against the North Korean leaders, 3 generation is gonna get murdered or sent to prison, labor camp. That's what they believe in. Sir?
Do you know anyone who's been there?
North Korea?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have about 30,000 North Korean people who are defected from North Korea to South Korea, living in South Korea. And South Korea is we treat them as just they're our men. Our constitution says any Korean person born in Korean Peninsula is South Korean citizen. So they're not actually defecting in a way, they're just given a new passport because they are South Koreans. We have a program for them to be able to learn about South Korea systems and so forth. We also give them money and housing so they can start their lives in South Korea. But it is very hard. The reason is not what you think why it is. Of course, there is a different culture and all that stuff. But the reason they find it so difficult to live in South Korea is because they never learn to achieve anything. They don't understand why South Koreans work so hard or study so hard and try to achieve so hard. They don't get it. If you have enough food, why do you need it? The concept of achieving something in your life doesn't exist in their brain. So that has been the hardest thing for them to overcome, actually, which is really sad.
Do they have to join the military?
No, unless they want to, they don't have to. But if they're coming to South Korea as a young boy, like say 10 years old or whatever, and they grew up, they can choose to go to the military or they can decline to do so.
I think that would give them some motivation.
I know, a lot of people actually do choose to go because of that reason. But we also have to watch out because they can also send spies down to South Korea a lot, so one of the reasons we kind of watch out for that as well. If they're coming to South Korea as 17 years old, no way we will take them to the army. But if they came here like at 10 years old, maybe they really grew up in South Korea, yeah, they're allowed to go to the army service if they wanted to. Any other questions? Yes.
I heard somewhere that if a North Korean family member defects and goes and sneaks down and gets to South Korea and makes it, that the rest of their family is subject to death, imprisonment, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 3 generations.
That's why they don't, a lot of them don't do it, because if they made it, then their mother and father or whoever would get killed.
Mother, father, grandfather, grandchildren, relatives, uncles and aunts, all subject to death or labor camp. But they still do. Do you know why? It's not because of ideology. They have no idea what ideology is. Because they're hungry. Every North Korean defects, they say they defected it because they were hungry. That's number 1 reason. Yes, ma'am.
I heard something about somebody who had infected at one time, and they went to China, it was on the border, and the Chinese sent them back to North.
Yep, that's one thing we really would love United States and UN help. When North Korea people defect or escapes north, they go to China. The reason is because they can't come to south because there's a DMZ, there's basically minefield. You cannot cross that. So the only way they can go is north, which is China. And China's rule is if they are caught, they are sent back to China. You know what's going to happen to them when you send them, but they still do. And all we ask is just let them get through. Let them get to the Korean embassy, or US embassy, or UK, or Spain, or any embassy, just to get to them. And we will take them. But no, China sends them back to North Korea. And the other thing that they do is they actually human traffic North Korean. When they defect, they sell women like their property. They're a lot of times sold as a sex reasons. And as you know, a lot of China does not have enough women So this is what they do. They buy North Korean women. Sometimes one person can buy a woman. Sometimes a whole town buy a one woman because they don't have enough money. And you can imagine what. And also they buy and sell men for the labor reasons and organ harvesting. We expect about 300,000 people possibly, up to 3 million people, 3 million people possibly in China that are North Koreans, but they can't escape North China because of China, won't let them. And they are sent back to North Korea a lot of times. Yes, sir.
I have a question in regards to because North Korea is so present, do you ever see that South Koreans or young South Koreans take for granted what they have? Because I think a lot of times in America, young people take for granted what Americans have. And
Oh, yeah.
do you see that in Korea?
Same exact thing. What's happening here is happening to South Korea. And that's one of the reasons I speak up here, because I'm hoping this is a root cause. If we fix it here, maybe South Koreans will be better too. Yes, a lot of young people take everything for granted, and they don't understand what your life could have been if you were born in North. And that's one of the reasons a lot of TV programs like to have North Korean person to talk about their experiences and so forth, but still doesn't really get through their head a lot of times. We have the same issue. Yes, sir.
Are you running out of the old people who were around during the Vietnam or during the Korean War, and do they teach the young people, hey, it isn't always this easy, we did this?
Yes, that is happening, which is very sad. A couple things and aspects of that. So not only a lot of people who fought for South Korea freedom are passing away, which is kind of losing what the young people not understanding how hard it was fought to get this freedom. But what's also sad is because about 70 years apart, we have been North and South. So therefore, a lot of relatives or family members that they have in each other, either North and South, they're all passing away as well. So we don't have any connection or of a person-to-person connection to North, which is the problem. So a lot of young people kind of basically say, North Korea, who cares? It's not my country. But I don't believe that they are our people. I think time is running out. I think I'm gonna have the report back here. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you, I really enjoyed it.
Jenny, thank you so much for your speech here and to share that research with